Gives them 6 more tackles, and here is Morgan intercepted by Valentine Holmes. Lachlan Coote coming across. Asiata is also there. He turned Coote inside out. Holmes will go 90 metres and scores for the Sharks.
That is Boldo's tears. Chris Kelly, who would you move?
Where do we start? I'm glad Boldo didn't grow up in Egypt times, because that's a terrible looking pyramid. It would have fallen over and collapsed by now. And given that he just Googled the squad and put Matt Ikavalu in the bottom, and he hasn't been there since half of last year, our pyramid would have fallen.
He's still on the page.
The pyramid would have fallen over. You would have been missing a foundation piece, and it's fallen over.
In amongst all of that, Lats had an awesome story about how awesome this Finau guy was, and then Boldo concludes it with like, yeah, Finucane, how good is he? And everyone goes,
I don't even know who Finau is. I just assumed that Finau was the same guy as Finucane. Is that a different person? I didn't know that. Who the hell's Finau?
Wow.
This is how flawed the tears are. He doesn't even know half the team.
Boldo.
This is where the tears bit comes into it.
I'm listening to the card going, did my stream just like skip 30 seconds or something? Like, no, it wasn't Boldo, just playing along. But anyway.
Maloney is still intercept. Away goes James Maloney. They're kicking him home, the Sharks fans. Maloney is there.
Speaking of Ashley Madison, I thought I was playing a funny trick on a mate of mine when I signed him up to Ashley Madison, right? And so I signed him up, and then what happened was I put his email address in and everything, and he didn't understand why he was getting all these email messages. And then there was the data security breach thing, right? So then his email address was in the data security thing, right? And he didn't know that anyone's been stitched up, but I knew that his email address was in it because I went and checked. And so then I rang this guy every single day for 6 months just to check if his wife at the time had found out that his name was in the Ashley Madison list. I was just relentlessly checking every single day, and after like 3 weeks, like, dude, why are you ringing me every day? 6
That's
months.
horrific, Boldo.
You want to know something funny? It actually was Chris Kelly.
And it's away. Here they are. Pryor, can he get it there? Yes, he can. Matt Pryor, an unlikely first try scorer for the Sharks.
Interesting enough that the North Bears are getting that desperate. They're talking about having a Pacific Bears team so they can sort of engulf those Pacific nations and sort of get that ball rolling, where they think they can sort of, take on the Cook Islands and the Samoans and the Tongas and sort of make it their team. So PNG's to go for me.
I'm pretty convinced after that. All right, Franko, what do you got?
Mate, can I rebuttal that, or am I giving a different answer?
We don't have enough arguments on this podcast. Come on,
you're going to throw out cans and they're going to play out of cans.
Ever. That is the dumbest idea ever. I know there's this sense of rose-colored glasses of the fact that there's this third world nation that has rugby league as their national sport. The fact that it's got 2 times the amount of people as New Zealand doesn't matter. Half of them don't have a TV. Dumb idea.
That's what you do. On my understanding.
Townsend now calling the shots with Johnson off. They will go. Gallen, field goal. Paul Gallen field goal. That is amazing. That is ridiculous. Away. It's back to Smith. Smith gets it away to Cronk. Cronk's got Korobetti with it. Have they got a chance here? Korobetti's put down. The siren sounds. Cronulla have won it. Cronulla have won it. 14-12. You can turn the light out now.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated, more often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the ET Stand Podcast.
Welcome to the ET Stand, the only show that has turned itself into a one-man travel agency with one single client. Tonight, we are bringing you exclusive news, updates, and coverage of the most relentless tech message campaign in Sharks fan history, Operation Get Lats to Vegas. Just joking. Joining me is tonight is Matty Williams making his debut for the year. Hello, Matthew. And then we have the man who has not yet put pen to paper and is on podcast match payments only, Stephen Franklin. Hello, Franko. Well done Friday night on the debrief too, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
Now, we are in trial mode, and we've got a lot coming up. So we're trying a different little thing this week. We're going to try 4 cameras and have an additional Boldo on screen because this camera might be a bit of a lag, but we want that camera live for what we're doing at the Hall of Fame next week because we're going to have multiple cameras and a whole bunch of stun stuff going on. So bear with us, and we're just going to trial and test stuff out and just see what happens, and maybe you can decide which Boldo you want to check on. And I've even got some tricks. I can actually even go move the cameras around and move it to different spots. I can see that no one's yet on the casting couch. And I can even check what's happening in my bedroom at the moment and can confirm not much. I thought that was a pretty funny gag, but anyway.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, how good's my little bedroom? That's pretty cute, is it?
Very nice. Very nice.
I'll have to throw that up on Instagram. This is the Sharks Fan Podcast that lets us talking to the football. We're live on YouTube and Facebook right now and available on delay on all good audio channels. Give us a subscribe, guys, if you're new to the channel or following us on audio. We've got a lot coming up. Thursday this week, after full time, we'll have the debrief, which is our instant match live reaction, which you can get involved with at home. Next week, we're going to be live from the Hall of Fame event from the ET Stand itself at Sharks. And then Wednesday night next week, I will be hosting trivia at Sharks at Karela on Wednesday night. And if you are a friend of the show, you will know it's a couple of my pet subjects that I like. So any fans of the show, you might want to research how obscure trivia facts about Carl Filliger might be a question into the hint, Matthew. And so you can maybe give the gangs at home a hint on what I might ask as a question about Carl Filliger. How many minutes? What year, perhaps?
We'll go the year 2008. First Penrith away. Minutes 12.
11. It's 11. So that might get in there.
Round up.
And then lastly, we have activated super chats on YouTube, which means if you don't like what we're saying, you can support the channel by telling us that we're bullfeds, and we will show your comment straight away. But while we do that, let's get into the comments. So Williams 2.0 has come through and said, Viva Ronaldo. That has happened. That is certainly going to be in the Sharks news and socials that we have coming up. Harley is also pretty pumped up for Ronaldo re-signing, as is Lats. Mazdad is, we don't need more Boldos. And Mazdad's asking if the casting couch can be the 4th camera, but we won't do that for much longer. Mazdad, all right, let's get into it. We have all of the Sharks news and stuff coming up. So the segments tonight, we've got the social roundup with Lats has put that together for me, and I'm going to read that out. We will quickly review the trial match against the Warriors and some key takeaways at the end. We'll trial preview the Raiders match and then look at some of the things that we've got in the week ahead. So without further ado, let's hit the socials. Thanks to you, Lats, for putting that together. There we go, with the nice little thumbnails of Lats. All right, let's get into it. So our news broke this afternoon that superstar winger Ronaldo Mulitalo is inked a fresh New Year 3-year deal, which sees him remain a Shark through to the 2028 season. Lats had heard whispers amongst the socials last week, and this afternoon that came to fruition. The socials have been abuzz with this reaction. Very, very popular with the Sharks fans, this re-signing. Listening to him speaking to Sharks media today, he called out the sacrifices that he's made by joining the Sharks and also the family values. When he was asked, what would you like the most for this season? The answer was obvious, a premiership ring. He did give a rap, and Franko, I like this one to coach. Oh, I'll bring in. I'll just remove myself there. There's Williams. There we go.
There we are.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Had a front row
he
seat.
gave
I
a
think I
ra-
was on the casting couch there.
Well, you know that you could have changed that.
Oh, I didn't want to ruin your chi. You're on a
Oh,
roll.
yeah,
I
fair
probably
enough.
would have ended up removing you. And actually, we know
And
last time I
ending
played
the
with the
stream.
stream, what happened? What happened? So I'll just...
Fair
Words
enough.
words to describe Boldo: vanity, pride, ego, arrogance,
Where have you
vainness.
come up with that?
Well, you wanted 2 cameras out of 3.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Well, that's more not that's not vanity. That's just inexperience. The big thing that came from Ronaldo's thing, comments to Sharks media today, gave Coach Morris a bit of a rap for what he'd done for him in his development. My personal reaction, I'm really pleased for the Sharks that we've managed to re-sign Ronaldo. Franko, give us a reaction to this news.
Yeah, I think it's a great signing. We knew he's one that we wanted to keep. He's certainly an elite level international rep player winger, one that is really good for branding as well as performing on the field. So I think he's a great clubman. Certainly has a couple of records in his sights, and I think there was maybe a little bit of scuttlebutt about whether we would lose him. Some murmurs, which I think rubbed a few people the wrong way. Maybe taking it a bit too close to heart, but ultimately I think everyone's really happy to see him sign, and long term too. 3-year deal is pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Matty, where can Ronaldo sit with respect to other Sharks legends if he adds another 3 seasons?
Well, we did his tally on how fast he got to his current level of being in the top 5 tries in the 80s now. By far the fastest, faster than Matt Rogers, and well ahead of the others in that ilk. And you've got E.T., Peachy, and Steve Rogers. Hangs around, keeps going at the rate he's scoring. He will breach through the 100. Only the 3rd player in Shark history behind E.T. and the Peach to do that. And then from there, who knows? No wingers do get. I suppose they've got an earlier retirement age or peak age compared to some other positions. But he could be really up. He already is up there. He could be even further along. And who would have thought that? On the point of him re-signing, I thought he was gone, given that what he'd been saying, having to look after the family, wanting to get back to South East Queensland, things like that. So this is a huge get. This is fantastic.
What did you say? 83 tries. So 4 seasons. If he gets 20 tries a season, then he's getting up towards ET numbers.
He's only 25. He made his debut in 2019. Yeah, he is. So obviously, it's relied on him going at the same rate. An interesting stat I just saw before, he's only got 1 hat-trick in all of that. It's all just been coming in 1s and 2s. We look at ET, he got a couple of 5s. And obviously Val Holmes, who's not on this list, but he got 4 tries. Matt Rogers got 4 tries in a match. So come on, Rod, get a 4 or a 5 and keep things ticking along.
Get a 5. Craig Gearon's come through in the comments saying and asking, did they say how much Ronnie resigned for? It's hard to know how much is left for the rest of the guys. We need to re-sign Stone Street. Now, I've not seen the dollars figures announced yet, and I'll just reiterate what I've said previously, is that every NRL player is good. It's just signing them for the right amount of money, and I'm pretty confident in Mooney's ability to get players for the right amount of money. But you're right, Craig, because Stone Street is a bit of a problem. So the excitement has been met with equally as much concern as to where that leaves Sam Stonestreet's future for the club. It's going to be very hard to retain him now, as the thinking, given that the league has now seen what he is capable of. Fans have been left wondering, much like Craig Gearon, how do we make him an offer, believing if we do that, it may to the detriment of either Rami and Katoa or possibly even Will Kennedy, given our depth at fullback. Lats is calling it. Watch this space. Franko, any further developments now on your off-contract player thinking with the re-signing of Ronaldo, Mulatalo and Stone Street? Is someone getting squeezed out here now?
Out of this scenario, I don't think so, to be honest. We know that Stone Street loves the Sharks. He's a local lad, come through the ranks. Obviously, it is a career for these guys, and if someone comes knocking with an offer too good to refuse, he'll be considering it. But at this stage, still young, still close ties to the club. And as we saw this past season, injuries happen. He'll get a bunch of games, bunch of experience. You did mention Mooney. We do have a knack of hanging on to people to let them develop and come in strong, come in hot. And this is probably a scenario that we'll find here. I think Stone Street will probably sign for another 2, which gives him an opportunity in about a year's time to really fight for that other wing spot. And then we'll evaluate from that point on.
All right, so we have our first ever super chat. So Williams 2.0 has donated $3 to the show, $2.99. Love your work, lads. First super chat. Williams 2.0, we do appreciate you and also all of the dialing in efforts that you give to the show. So you could have made us talk about it.
Does that mean we have to let him dial in on the next one because he's given us this? What?
Well, it means we have. Also, he could have made us talk about any subject he wanted. So he could. Well, I guess we were talking about Stone Street anyway, which is his subject.
What else would he have wanted, right?
Yeah, well, Goat Street. He was. I tell you, Stone Street was annoyed when Gabriel didn't pass him the ball on that break in the trial match. I can tell you.
Sure was.
Not a happy chappy. All right. Well, another person who might make the fans an unhappy chappy is that news broke during the week that the Merge were in the box seat to shine Sharks cult figure Tom Hazelton would if the Sharks were unable to table him an offer reasonable enough to keep him in the Shire. And as much as fans don't want to see him go, quite a few are okay with it across the socials, but not if it is to the Dragons. Surely Tommy would not be silly enough to go down that route, but he'd be a very handy pickup, and given how trim they are in the forwards, he'd probably get a starting spot on that team. Franko, your reaction to the Hazelwood news?
Yeah, it's sad, but it's not something that's come out of nowhere. He's been rumoured for a little while now to be going somewhere else, whether it was Newcastle before this one. Look, we've just brought on AFB. We do have Hamlin Ueli coming out of injuries, assuming he's fit and firing to go. It is probably a position that we are surplus in, especially say next year, while we've got Tommy locked down for this year. Next year we'll have a few more of the younger kids coming through. Might show that we've got that depth there and available. Not to mention Colhoun, whose injury is only going to get better and hopefully string a few games together. So it's really sad for Tommy. We obviously like him. He's a cult favourite. He revs the crowd up and is a try scorer. But as far as the dynamics of the team, Tapua is another big bopper with good strong punch. It's just hard to find a spot for him in that regular starting team.
Matty, if we let Hazelton go, where could that sit compared to other Sharks forwards that have left us? I didn't give you much notice on this question, so I hope you read it in the notes. Maybe we can just speculate.
Look, it's one of those annoying ones, and we've got, I suppose, a very good embarrassment of riches in the middle, which we didn't 2 years ago with Fanil Blake. Obviously, hopefully, Hamlin Willie gets some form back. That's a big if. Maybe Rudolph. So we got him. He did perform pretty well at the back end of the year. He's injured again. As my internet drops out again. Sorry, guys. After the storm yesterday, it's been patchy. And obviously, we got Kafusi as well playing lock on the weekend, which seems to see him do that. Talakai potentially moving in the middle to behind Tapua, as you said. So, and maybe some young guys coming through potentially. So I think we'll go okay in regards to forwards leaving. It's similar to Atkinson leaving. It's a bummer. We want to see him go and progress, but we don't want to see it go to the Dargans. But I suppose all the best to him. On the spot of forwards that have left, I mean, it doesn't count, but McKenna was playing in the centre at the top of it when Paul Mellor left within a year of each other. I was devastated. Both were capable of playing wide running back rows. And yeah, I suppose the way that Greg Bird left and a few others, it's not up there, but it hurts a bit more than, say, some other illustrious players we've lost over time.
Kate Snowden for me was the one that sucked.
Yeah, I would say Douglas hurt more than that because he was the one we thought Kate, as soon as the conference was cancelled, we're like, he's gone. And I think within that week, it was down out of nowhere that he was off to the Titans. It was like, gosh, we've lost both of our star representative props, including the one that we thought we'd keep. What are we going to do from here?
Yeah, Douglas
Franko
hurt me
loved Luke
more.
Douglas.
Yeah, love Douglas.
Hurt.
I don't even need to ask you, Franco, who was the one that hurt for you. I know
Yep.
that it was Luke Douglas. All right, moving on to the next. Now, on the weekend, we saw a new supporters group launch, the Shark Cage. This popped up on my Instagram. Looks a little bit of fun by what these guys are up to. So congratulations to you. Any supporters group that follows the Sharks, we will support and thank you legends. If you want a group of fellow Sharks fan to get to matches and get in touch with them, they'll have a whole bunch of details. I think Tim is the name of the guy. I don't know that much about him, but we have invited Tim onto the show, who responded to me on Instagram, and he will be joining Franco and Williams while I am in Las Vegas for that dial-in. So fingers crossed. Matty, you're an expert on supporters groups. We'll ask him about what those guys are up to. But yeah, get involved with the supporters clubs. That's always good fun. In terms of the All-Stars, it was reported on sharks.com.au that we've got 6 players named. So the Puru brothers will be running out for the Indigenous team, squaring off against Lat's fan favourite Marween Hiroti for the Maori All-Stars. And for the girls, we have Quincy Dodd and Nikias Davis-Welsh for the Indigenous team up against Boom Centre and Nessa Biddle for the Maoris. Good luck to all involved. Most importantly, stay healthy. I was meant to have a slide on the Sharks Gildaroos, but I seem to have not put that one in. But congratulations to Shark NRLW stars Quincy Dodd and Tiana Penatani have been named for the Gildaroos squad to take on England in Las Vegas. 2 absolute legends of the game. Very well deserved off the back of an immense year last year. I'll be watching you girls play in Las Vegas, so let's go get amongst that. And then lastly, we have the social reaction to the Sharks trial match. Overall, Sharks fans were quite happy with our performance in our trial match against the Warriors on Friday night. Leading to the match, the general consensus was that we cop a bit of a hiding given that they were almost full strength and we were missing a whole bunch of players. Tommy opened up the scoring with a lovely classic Tommy try that we've seen so many times before a couple of Raiders tries, before the Sharks came back with Hiroti converting, seeing us locking up at the end. The Sharks did squander several opportunities, but overall the Sharks, our fans, were pretty happy. However, one notable prominent Sharks podcast who was fired up on the Discord channel, and if you want to get involved and talk to us about our match reactions, you can jump on the Discord channel. And I'll just say this. You can try and recreate that real game scenario 15 seconds left. Scores locked, ball within 10 meters of the post. But it's very difficult. And we had a real-life chance to train how to ice games and finish something off, and we didn't take it. Now, you might say that it's a trial, it doesn't matter. But what we're also training for is smart decision-making, and I just don't think that was a smart decision. He's copped a bit of stick, Jaden Beryl, for not throwing it back to the player in position to kick the field goal, and I'm sure if he could have his time again, I think he passes for the field goal. I, at the game, was pretty frustrated to watch it, thought it was a bit annoying. Matthew, your reaction to my comment there and your thoughts on trial matches in generally, and do they count for anything? Maybe answer it two-part question.
I'll preface I didn't watch live. I had a lot of things on lately, so I watched the replay, but I saw the reactions, didn't look at the score because it was a trial, and saw the reactions thinking, oh, this would be the worst in the world. My gut feeling before seeing it was like, well, actually, it's a trial. We've seen trial games in the past where they haven't even kicked goals. You're about your shapes, taking advantage of attacking opportunities. I thought, okay, the new edge, let's say he's gone short side, speculate. It's the time to do it. I suppose you might be down by 2, so you might replicate that. You might be down by 2 or 4 and need to score a try rather than a field goal. But then watching it back on the replay, so actually, I'm thinking just before talking to you guys before the show, it was at Riley Pollard and Taj Ford were out there, and they both would have had the opportunity and would have, I suppose, given something significant to have the opportunity to ice a game with a field goal. So they missed out on that opportunity. So it's anyway, it's a learning point. Better now than in a regular season game, but yeah, is what it is.
I think it doesn't matter. Like we said, the score doesn't really matter. It's about impact and trying to run shapes. I think that to Boldo's point, we didn't have our regular team on the field, so even if they were practicing that field goal, you couldn't then through regular season go, oh, Trindle missed that field goal because he didn't take the one in the trial match. It's not the same. They're not on the field, so these are a bunch of young reserve graders and juniors coming through who have played together in some of the other comps, trying something that they think they know, and it didn't come off, but I applaud them for having a crack, and I think that was fine. You might see something different in this coming trial match where we do have all the first graders on, but that'll be something else to discuss.
Franko, you watch the game closely. From the up-and-coming players of which you speak, who do you think progress their chances of a future first-grade status, given that we know that you are the best judge of this, of all Cronulla Sharks fans?
Oh, my opinion didn't really change. I didn't really like the rotations, and I didn't like the minutes that they got. And I will hand on heart say that I don't like watching trials on TV. I much prefer to be there live, because you can see when people are running on and off and what they're doing off the ball. And I think for a lot of the fringe players who are trying to make a mark or show their commitment, that off the ball stuff I think goes a long way to showing their eagerness to impress. And on the screen you don't really get as much of that. So I'm gonna keep my powder dry for now. I've said in the past who I like that's coming through. I like Taj. I do like Felix Fatili. I think they're going to be players to watch. But there were a few other players there on the night that I think they'll get another run week 2, and it'll be good to see how they go again.
Fair enough. Well, I was watching, so I went to the match live, and it was so packed, and there must have been 7,000-8,000 people there, maybe 6. I couldn't get a spot in the ET stand, so I sat on the Leagues Club side. And you're right, Franko, not being able to see the players coming on and off from the sideline really meant it was quite difficult to follow who was playing. So that was a little bit of difficulty. I missed my, ivory tower in the ET stand. But also just some other observations from actually being at the match. The lineup to get it, the Sharks did not anticipate that many people coming to that match. And there was a 20-minute queue to get in when I drove past, and it had sped up by the time I walked in to get my entry. And a big part of that was because CEO Dino Mezzatesta had opened up the gate and was checking tickets and letting people in himself, which was a bit of a bummer for the Sharks, but also positive at the same time. I can confirm that the German sausage guys are back for another season. So I had one of those German sausages. That was terrifically fun. And then lastly, Sharks, please open both gates when the Sharks fans are leaving. It was a bit frustrating not being able to work out the main exit. But other than that, look, I thought the Sharks players looked really fit, which is what you want out of the trial match. Typically no injuries. So as far as I'm concerned, we're on to the next. Any other last point, Matthew?
I thought Chris Vaiella looked good. There was talk of him being a chance late in the season to run. If you listen to Shanaz and Dan was talking about the team, they were talking about how it would have been handy if he got a couple of games under his belt. He got a bit of a run there in the trial, which was good because I think we'll need some depth in the centres. Talakai experimental time at centre is over. And also, I suppose, a bit more second row depth too with Billy Burns and Hoheb Puru also getting a run. Puru especially looking good. A bit worried about our depth in the second row, especially with injuries of late. You got Nickera, Wilton, and Talakai trying to fit 3 into 2, but usually one of those 3 is not available if most of last year was anything to go by.
We're going to come on to the bench and Talakai and that in a minute when we get through the team. We'll just hit through some of the comments. And so Williams 2.0 has come through in the comments saying, to be frank, or to be fair, there's a big difference between Beryl and the kids and what would happen between Brayley, Nico and Tricky. That is true. But I still want to see Beryl training. Scotty Latino is saying, going back to Stone Street and Tommy, thoughts on releasing Axe early up to free up space. Franko, do you want to respond to that?
That's a no. He is our backup if something goes wrong. If we have an injury, he is certainly next man up. And as we saw last year, pretty crucial in replacing our starting halves. That said, we do have a bit of form in doing it if we can get the right player in return. So if that was to be the case, then you know what, I'd have faith in our scouting team to say that they plucked a good junior from the Dragons ranks. But we're a bit too close to season proper now to, I think, be discussing that. If that was going to be the case, it probably would have happened late last year.
Yeah, we don't want to. We got Atkinson on an appropriate deal. We don't want to be moving off him. And besides, we've already paid Atkinson for 5 months of the season. So
yeah, what's
losing.
He's done enough to free up this year, and for what is it, for a mid-year trade for someone else? It's I suppose if we can release and get someone early, like it was a Phil Blake scenario like last year, maybe. But we haven't got anyone signed for the next year, so yet anyway.
Fair enough. And then Mazdad's come through saying some trials that don't even have goal kicking, field goals don't matter.
Great
minds.
Yeah,
what would you know, Mazdad? And then lastly, we'll just go. SJD's come through in the comments. Wait, did Boldo had the head of McInnes watching him over him while sleeping? And we'll just go back to the bedroom shot. And yes, we can confirm that the Cam McInnes head is over the top of my bedroom.
Favorite player.
God, I'm an idiot sometimes. All right, let's get into the trial match preview. And thank you for you guys sharing my terrible sense of humor. It is on to the next with the Cronulla Sharks traveling to Canberra to take on Vegas participants, the Canberra Raiders. The Sharks have named a close to full-strength team. The match kicks off at 7:50 with live coverage on Fox League and KO. We will be live with our debrief episode pretty much right after full time, or maybe 10 to 15 minutes after full time to give us time to compose ourselves. You can have your say on the Sharks' performance by leaving a comment on the show, or you can even join the show by clicking on the link that we'll have provided closer to kickoff. The Sharks team that is taking on the Raiders is here, which I will read through right now and remove. I'll keep that version of myself on the screen. All right, let's go through the team list. So the Sharks have named William Kennedy at fullback, Sam Stonestreet and Ronaldo Mulatalo are on the wings with first choice centre pairing Jesse Ramian and Kale Iro. Braden Trindle is wearing the 6 jersey and is the 5'8", with Nicholas Hines at halfback. New prop Aiden Fanua-Blake starts for the first time for the Sharks in jersey number 8 with Oregon Kafusi, his partner. Blake Brayley is the hooker, and then it's the back row. Britton Nakora, Teague Wilton and Cameron McInnes will be the captain. And on the bench, we have Daniel Atkinson, Siosifa Talakai, Braden Hamlin-Ueli, and Thomas Hazelton-Wood. Franko, what do you make of this team? Should we be naming a full-strength lineup?
Yes, we should. We won't be playing them for that long, I imagine. So they might get about 20, 30 minutes, blow out some of the cobwebs, just confirm that they've got the calls right and they can know Adam Fanua-Blake's voice when he says, "Give me the ball, mate." And away they go, have a run, have a hit, stay safe, stay healthy, and then give the other guys on the extended bench a go.
And Nicholas Hines is in the 7 jersey.
Do we want to cover the
Yeah, actually, let's cover the extended bench. Good call. That's on the run sheet, Williams. I'm just hopeless. Yeah, we'll get to the let's cover off. What do you think of Daniel Atkinson, Williams?
I suppose I think he would then sub on for Trindle and or Hines. And looking at the extended bench to lead to that segue, you got Billy Burns, Jaden Beryl. So you got some second row and hooker coverage there. Tukahai Tapua, so middle. Chris Vaiella, a centre. Riley Pollard, a half. Taj Ford is a half/hooker, I believe. Pardon my ignorance. Michael Gabriel, so centre or 3/4. Christian Dixon and Eli Clark. Interesting omissions. Who was he grabbing his arm at some stage of the weekend? They claimed no injuries, but is he being rested, or has Stonestreet taken the inside line? Because it's otherwise full strength, you'd argue, the first 17 anyway.
I think Katoa's got a knock and he's being rested, but they're not saying it's too serious. I think if we were in a finals match, he'd be playing. Okay. It's a trial match, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so they've got an enormous amount of subs there as you do in trials. So like the old Socceroos versus game in 2003, we can't quite see a full change out of the first 13 at halftime, but you might see something similar. So get a good first 20 minutes in and then protect them, please, because you never know what Ricky and his boys are going to do to us, even in a trial. We saw the Bulldogs' second trial that we played last year against the Bulldogs was very physical. And there were a couple of injury worries out of that one, I think, at the time from memory. So we want to avoid that, especially with a long flight. Everything is in Vegas.
Franko, at the end of last season, you were on record as saying there was absolutely no chance that Nicho Hynes was not halfback or not in the 7 jersey. He's been named in the 7 jersey. How are you feeling about your prediction there and your comment? And you're standing by that, I would assume.
Well, look, it is only a trial match, and anything could happen, But that said, I'm not surprised to see him wearing 7 here. So it's going to be the way it is, I imagine, for round 1. Whether it continues that way for the rest of the season, time will tell. But I'm pretty happy with it. I think it makes sense. There is that element of it's just a number, but it's also a mindset, and it's almost a marketing scenario as well, right? So they'll play fine. We saw them play fine with the 6 and 7 on their backs, and they will continue to do so.
I'm giving heaps
Surely
of
if they were
promotion
going to
here.
switch them. Surely if they were going to switch them, then they would have done. They surely would have done that for.
Have you heard the interview with Fitzgibbon on Sharkcast? Because on that he directly addressed it, and he says that they're just a number. 6 and 7, basically, they're playing the opposite sides of the field. Sure, he can switch them around, but it is what it is. He said he'll address it. If it becomes an issue, he'll address it. That's Fitzgibbon. But at this stage, he doesn't believe it's an issue, and he doesn't expect it being an issue. I
think that's probably right. And we see Atkinson as the 14. Are we going to be running with an interchange back on the bench during the season, Matty? Seems to be a broken record.
Referencing that the interview there too. It depends if you're carrying an injury. Depends who you're playing against. I'd say at times yes. If we just refer to Williams 2.0's comment saying scared Atkinson's 14. Is this a sign of round 1? We need a forward during the season, or another forward on the bench during the season. I think that will happen. You might see Atkinson doing a lot of 18th man. The finals proved that's not the case. They have spoken to in the media about Fanua Blake. That he's been playing less minutes than he did in order to optimise his output, which requires that rotation of forwards. But he was also averaging about 60, 65 minutes for the Warriors, which is far and away well ahead of anything our middles were providing last year. So I think
Cam McInnes didn't even play that many minutes typically.
No. So hopefully, I think that if you're not running Atkinson on the bench, it's probably a good sign for the team that our forwards are doing a job like last year. The bench is different. That we're not carrying any potential injuries in the half, and that maybe rely on Talakai that utility. I know it's at the center is over, but just in case you do lose a 3/4, here's your coverage there.
It's probably worth mentioning that there is a little bit of a different dynamic now that we don't have Jack Williams anymore, who was a pretty reliable bopper on the bench. So without him, the options are a little bit less certain. So we've got Tapua, who, at this stage, while he did a lot of minutes in trial 1 and has proven that he can do a lot of minutes in reserve grade, hasn't really shown that in first grade yet. So there's a question mark there. So Daniel Atkinson might get that 14 jersey for the first, quarter of a season or a third of a season. But I imagine once Colquhoun maybe comes back from injury and is fit and firing to go, he might nab that 4th bench spot.
We've had a comment come through from SJD asking us an injury update on Dykes and Ison. I've not been able to get one and get a handle on what those guys are up to. Boys, do you have any information on that?
I think Ison did his hand, injured his hand. And Dykes is probably still recovering from his ACL that was mid last year.
Disastrous.
Frustrating, because now would be the time, especially the last match would have been the time for both of them to get a good run in those positions. You're right on the minutes looking at Hamlin, Willie and Hazelton especially. They play minimal minutes if last year was anything to go by. Talakai, not too many more. So it could be good if Rudolph came back.
All right. Williams 2.0 also saying we have to remember that Toby has to come back to the team so that he could be on the bench. That is true. Toby coming in makes that team stronger. I'm really pleased to see Braden Hamley and Ueli. However, I am not pleased to see this head on a Sharks podcast screen. So for the benefit of those on audio only, we have 4 picture screens. It is not a picture of my house or my bed. Sadly, it is a picture of the not so great Ricky Stewart. So let's go through the Raiders team that's been named for this trial too. I'm just going to make this bigger so I can see it because maybe my eyes are getting a little bit old. So we've got Ko Weeks as the fullback. Xavier Savage, I rate him as one wing with Savelio Tamale on the other wing. In the centers, they got Matthew Tomoko and Sebastian Chris with a halves pairing of Ethan Strange and Jamal Fogarty. Up front, Josh Papali'i still floating around the Raiders with Trey Mooney, with Tom Starling. I also rate him as the hooker. And then in the back row, they've got Hudson Young and Matty Nicholson with Morgan Smithers. Better start in Hale and Whalen at lock forward. And then on the bench, they've got Danny Levi, Albert Hopewadi, Adam Cook, and Jed Stewart. I'm not going to bother naming their extended bench because who cares? Matty, you lived in Canberra. They're going to be a threat this season. Are any of you Canberra buddies saying, well, we're going to win?
Actually, even though I lived in Canberra for a long time, no one I knew down there was a Raiders fan because everyone was there were a few, but everyone was from somewhere else, right? And everyone hated the Raiders. I think the Raiders, if that's their strongest team, I haven't looked too much at them. I'm not like Kelly. I'm not an expert on many other teams. I suppose when I lived there, that's a pretty. It's a
pretty average looking NRL team.
Yeah,
that one.
There's a few danger guys in there. Like a few guys, agree that Xavier Savage is good. Josh Papali's been getting around forever, and he does seem to trouble us, but surely he's over the hill now. Danny Levi, how old is he? Same too as Jamal Fogarty has just gone to market as well. So not sure if he's particularly happy in Canberra or he's looking to optimise his return. But the Raiders have caused us trouble for a long period of time, especially even up until the final round of 2023 when we hadn't beaten them in years. So it's a trial. Just go through the motions, get the combinations together, get some minutes under the belt. Don't get injured by any dog shots from Papali, please, and get out of there. The result does not matter.
Franko, what do you want to see from the Sharkies against this Raiders team?
I don't really care, to be honest. Like I said, don't get injured. I think if we're being fair dinkum, we just blitz them in the first 20 minutes, run a couple of plays, good firm hard contact, see if we can bend the line, and then get off the field and see what our young fringe players can do. And I'd like to leave them on for an extended period and give them a good hit out.
What happened to that redhead Ford they had that was calling Royce Hunt his son a few years ago? What was his name? Played for Queensland. And then disappeared. He's been playing New South Wales Cup for the last few years. And then there was talk of him leaving. Ricky re-signed him. And he may be injured. I don't know. But he's not even playing. I can't remember his name. Anyway. Corey Horsburgh.
There we go. SJD in the comments. We do without you, SJD.
He came back and won him a game and patched everything up with Ricky, and everyone loves each other again. So
so he was looking kind of promising for a while, or he just kind of stood up against us and was a bit of a speed bump the rest of the time, maybe. But I don't know. Yeah, who cares about their extended bench? Get the result. The coach is not Andrew Webster, despite those comments before. It is the coach, the former Sharks coach between.
Did I not update the sheet? Did I?
Yeah, it was.
Did I stuff that up?
Maybe it was Andrew Webster, the journalist. Maybe they're desperate.
Yeah, no, I didn't update it. Well, I just didn't even bother updating Andrew Webster from last week, did I?
Yeah, apparently, I think Ricky Stewart's son may be on the extended bench. I heard on SEN this afternoon.
Is that Jed Stewart?
I think so. Yes.
Maybe they're confusing Chevy Stewart, the Sharks junior, that is reserve fullback for the Raiders.
Maybe they're talking about him being in one of the reserve grade teams or under 20s or something. But
so he's on the extended bench. So I know you said ignore their extended bench, but you're giving the Raiders a bit of a hard time there. They have sort of said they're going to play the long game. They've got a good young crop of juniors coming through on some pretty good long-term contracts. They are looking to bring them all through together, and I would be pretty excited to see their B team, we'll call it, up against our B team. So have a bit of a hit out for that first 20 minutes and then swap everyone out and see how our young kids go up because they're young kids. That'd be pretty
And
exciting.
not that we're a Raiders podcast, but didn't their reserve grade team gave us a run for our money in reserve grade last year, I think? And then I think they were also thereabouts, maybe in flag as well. So
they're very
interesting
talented.
to see if the coach survives. Ricky Stewart, the man with loves or maybe more. He hasn't had any scrutiny down there. Despite the fact that they've got tough times ahead, there'll be plenty of hurting boys in there.
That was his saving grace. That's what got him a long-term contract because he said, this is the plan and they all love me. So if you want this plan to work, you got to stick with me. And he signed the mammoth deal. No
Albert Kelly's throw in a fullback.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of this not being a Raiders podcast, there is absolutely no love in the comments from some of our regulars with SJD saying, I can't see the Raiders not finishing last this year. They might be one of the bottom teams. I think the Eels are going to be pretty crap as well. So we'll do our predictions at the start of the year. And Mazdad's also coming through saying they will struggle this season and confirming that Jed is in fact his son. And then SJD saying all future super chats should go to fixing Matt Williams's internet.
Just on that, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of the mammoth storm that we had yesterday, and my internet has been just horrid ever since.
Fair enough. SJD's coming through saying Eels will make the 8, take it to the bank. No, they won't. They're not going to make the 8. The West Tigers are going to make the 8, SJD. We'll do a whole episode on the top 8 in a week or two, but we'll get to that. All right. That was the trial match. Do you want to bugger the predictions? Who cares? Just don't get injured, Sharks. All right. Other than that, the week ahead, we have got a lot of stuff coming up in terms of upcoming shows. So just one quick last look at the Hall of Fame. So the ET stand will be live from 6 p.m. Tuesday night next week during the Hall of Fame. It will be our season launch. We've got players coming on. We've got all of our panelists together for the first time in a long time in the ET stand. We've got a lot of different things happening. We're trying to get Franko on the red carpet to interview the Sharks players. So I don't know what we're going to do with that. We're even trying to get the great ET on the show. Maybe. We'll see how we go. But we'll chop all of that stuff up for social media as well. So do follow us on Instagram. We are 1 week away from the Cronulla Sharks naming their 11 first Hall of Fame inductees. And as we go look at what we built previously, I reckon we're pretty on the money. I think we've got certainly the 11 will be from all of the named players from this list. Franko, any changes to your thoughts a couple of weeks on from that episode we dedicated to this? Who you're most looking forward to seeing get inducted into the Hall of Fame for the Cronulla Sharks?
Well, ignoring the ones that we know are a lock, I'm partial to seeing Peachy and Rogers being Matt getting named. I think they would be my picks of fanboy moments of seeing them get up there and get awarded for their services to the club.
Matty, who are you most looking forward to seeing, hopefully, in your mind's eye, get into the Sharks Hall of Fame?
I think Paul Gallen, as cliche as that sounds, just to formalise things, because we've seen his entire career, unlike, I suppose, you guys before me. I suppose I could argue that I saw Matt Rogers' career, but I was pretty young there. You would have seen ET's career, but most of you guys would have been very young when he started in 83. He's a guy that we saw the whole way through, and he has done it all. He's done more than any other players in that list there, you'd argue. He's won the comp right. So what time better than the present to do that? The other ones too. I think there may be a few older players, having heard what interviews with Ash Taylor and the like about the criteria, and there's some real legends there, like obviously looking back at our first Australian representatives and the like that may meet that criteria. So maybe we were a bit too current leaning, but we'll see what they say on the night.
Couple of comments have come through. 2.0 there is saying, hang on, Franko doesn't have Gal as the Sharks Hall of Fame. The only captain to win us a premiership, not including him, is outrageous. I'm going to quickly just answer for you, Franko. If you want to go see why Franko does not list Paul Gallen in his Hall of Fame picks, go and watch our episode dedicated to the Hall of Fame, and you will see the answer. And it's not a terrible reason. I think it's pretty good. Don't you, Franko?
I reckon it's a great reason, and that's why I stuck with it.
So go check it out. That one's in our video archive. And then Glenn Thompson saying, yeah, Preston Campbell misses out. Yeah, Preston Campbell hasn't played enough games, Tomo, and he doesn't quite hit the criteria of, I think he's only got 3 of the 5 criteria, which is a shame. But we know that Preston Campbell is a legend. For me personally, I would love to see Brett Kamali inducted into the Sharks Hall of Fame. He is underrated for his contribution through a pretty difficult period. And speaking of Preston Campbell, he does get a pretty tough run. I'd love to see him inducted, but look, they're all Sharks legends. I'd gladly induct all 1,000 of you into the Hall of Fame, to be honest. All right, that was our quick chat on the trivia. Not trivia, Sharks Hall of Fame. So other than that, coming up, we have, let me just do, oh no, we don't want that view. Let's go that view. There we are. Other upcoming shows we have coming up, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I'm hosting trivia at Sharks at Karela next Wednesday, the night after the Hall of Fame. We'll have a couple of hints for future trivia questions to get involved. There's a range of prize and a whole bunch of stuff going on, so that should be pretty good fun. We are going to be dropping a special episode this week. Well, we should be. So if you follow us on Instagram, you might have seen one of our hosts arguing with a prominent former NRL player about a subject. This NRL player has accepted the invitation to come on a special episode of the ET Stand to discuss the said subject on which we disagreed. So credit to him. He's coming on the show, and we're going to talk through the issue that we're covering off. Matthew's looking at me in shock going, what is going on here? So yes, we've got it. But I'm not going to say who it is just in case it falls through.
When's that happening? Is it you and him, or is he just dialing into an episode and we're having it out?
We're going to do a special episode with him. It's going to be me with Chris Kelly playing referee, and we're going to discuss a pretty hot topic in NRL history.
It's a hot topic in NRL history. I'll give you that, but it doesn't involve Cronulla unless he's going to turn around and go,
Williams.
Yeah, well, true. It doesn't. That's why I'm going to do a special episode. If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it.
It's interesting.
If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it.
Groundbreaking.
So anyway, we'll see how that goes. And then other than that, we have Bolderman and Kelly confirmed for Las Vegas. So we're going to have a bunch of activities going on at Vegas. I'm just in talks with the Sharks about what we might be able to do with them there. So if anyone's coming along to Las Vegas, do let us know. We'd love to grab a beer with you. That'll be good fun. Follow us on socials, and Franko will be in charge of the Tuesday night episode that week. Goodness me, that will be funny. And then other than that, the Chiefs got pumped because defense wins championships, lads. So hopefully in next season, we can talk about how Fitzgibbons built our defense up. Anything else from you, lads?
One more thing from me about Tommy. We're talking about him a lot. Really good interview with him, between him and Dead on the Bloke in a Bar podcast. Go and give it a listen if you haven't. Talks a lot about Tommy's backstory, his experience being in lower grades during COVID, and basically where a lot of players have been cut by the club, and he could have been cut and never had an NRL career to begin with. Didn't play rugby league before he was 15. He was a representative soccer player, commuting from Goulburn to play for the Wollongong Wolves, I believe. So pretty interesting backstory. Great listen.
Franko, a final say on what we've got coming up?
It's action-packed. I need to rehearse. Do I need to get a suit? Do I need to get a haircut? I don't know. There's pressure here.
What are you going to wear? What do we wear to the Sharks Hall of Fame?
Do we get Reefy costume out of the closet, or?
I was talking. Lads said get us Sharks Club polos, but I don't know if I want to wear a Sharks polo. Maybe I'll have to wear one. I can't see Franko wearing a Sharks polo.
I thought Franko was going to wear his old Leagues Club suit.
Yeah, Franko should wear his old Leagues Club outfit.
Maybe that's the go. We'll see.
What should Franko wear? That is the question. Who knows? And SJD's come through saying, hit the like button, by the way. Thank you, SJD, for saying that. And 2.0 is saying singlets and ties. All right, that was this episode of the ET Stand live on a Tuesday night. An abridged episode. Good fun to be back. We're just getting into it. So hello to everyone who's listening to us on audio on delay or watching this later. Get your comments in on any of the comments that we've made during the show. Do you agree with us, disagree with all that fun stuff? We'll be live post full time for the debrief on Thursday night. We will be live from the Sharks Hall of Fame at 6 p.m. on Tuesday next week. Do like us and follow us on YouTube, and also follow us on Instagram. Get involved in the Discord channel. God, we got heaps of stuff going on. Goodness me. That was the ET stand, and we will see you guys for the debrief on Thursday night. Up, Cronulla.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated, more often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the ET Stand Podcast.